Welcome to Nerdy Psychology, where your mind's not as messy as it seems. We break it down with a little curiosity and make sense of your thoughts and your themes. So be curious, stay kind, keep your mind nerdy.
Have you ever said no and then immediately felt the need to explain yourself? Like you didn't just say no, you said, no, I can't because I have a lot going on right now and I'm really overwhelmed and I just need some time to reset. I hope that's okay. And then even after that, you still feel guilty. You still wondered if they're upset and you're still thinking about it an hour later. If that's not you, you do not have a problem saying no. You have a problem feeling safe after you say it. Hi nerds, I am Dr. Angel and welcome back to Nerdy Psychology, where we break down the patterns that quietly run your life. In the last episode, we talked about why boundaries feel so hard, the conditioning, the fear, the identity conflict. And today, we're zooming in on something that sounds simple, but feels incredibly uncomfortable. And that's saying no. Because no is not just a word for a lot of people. It's loaded. So why do we over-explain? I think it's a good place for us to start here. Why is it so hard for us to just say no? Why do we feel the need to add a paragraph after that word? Let's talk about an example. Someone invites you to something. You don't want to go, and it's not because you don't like them, and it's not because anything's wrong. Maybe you're just tired, or maybe you just want the night to yourself. But instead of saying, no, I'm going to sit this one out, thanks anyway, you say, wish I could, but I've had a long week and I haven't been sleeping well and I really need to get caught up on things. And what you're actually doing is this. You're trying to make your no more acceptable. And what's underneath this, over-explaining, is not about communication. It's about permission seeking. You're unconsciously asking, is this okay? Am I still a good person? Will you still like me if I disappoint you? Here's a moment most people miss. Even after you say no, you might add an extra kindness or offer a future yes, like, let's do this again sometime. Soften your tone or check in later with, hey, are we okay? Why? Because silence after no feels uncomfortable. So when you've been conditioned to manage other people's feelings, a clean no feels incomplete. But here's the truth. Your boundary does not require a justification to be valid. The discomfort after no, we need to talk about what actually makes saying no so hard. And it's not the word. It's what happens after we say that word. You say no, and then your brain starts going, wow, that sounded rude. They pause. Did I upset them? Should I text them again? Should I explain more? Maybe I can just make all of this work. So now you're not just managing the situation. You're managing your own anxiety about the situation. What's actually happening when you set a boundary is you disrupt a pattern. And your nervous system goes, hold on, something changed. Is this safe? So it tries to pull you back into what's familiar. You know, that over-explaining and backtracking and fixing the discomfort. Here's another example. Maybe you tell a coworker, I won't be able to take on that project right now. And they say, oh, okay. That's it. That's all they say. But inside your brain, it fills in all the blanks and writes a narrative. Oh my gosh, they're so annoyed. They think I'm not a team player. This is going to affect how they see me. So what do? you overcompensate later. Maybe you take on something else just to prove your worth again. The goal is not to eliminate discomfort. The goal is to learn how to tolerate it without abandoning yourself. Because that discomfort, that's the space where new boundaries are forming. Rewiring guilt versus responsibility. And this is where everything shifts. Because a lot of people think, if I feel guilty, I must be doing something wrong. But that's not always true. You can say no to someone you care about, and you feel it, that pull, that heaviness, that tightness, that knot in your stomach, the thought, I feel bad. So you assume you're writing this narrative, I am bad, or I am selfish. We need to separate these two. Guilt is a feeling. Responsibility is an action. You can feel guilty and still be making a healthy decision. I'll give you another example. If you cancel plans because you need rest, you might feel guilty. But are you doing something wrong? Absolutely no. You're taking care of yourself, of what your body needs. You're listening to your body. Not all guilt is a signal to change your behavior. Sometimes guilt is just the echo of old conditioning and old patterns. Think about the first time you tried to do something differently. Maybe you spoke up, or maybe you said no, or maybe you just didn't immediately try to fix something. It felt uncomfortable, but that discomfort, that was growth. So what saying no can actually sound like, we're going to make this real because this is where people get stuck. So here are some clean no examples. No, I won't be able to do that. I'm going to pass on that. That doesn't work for me. I'm not available for that. Pause. That's it. If you want a softer edge without over-explaining, I appreciate you asking, but I'm not able to. Or I really can't commit to that right now. Or that's not something I can take on. The key rule is say it once and then stop talking. Let the space exist. You don't need to fill it. That silence after you say no, that's not failure, that's new. I want you to try something this week. One small no. Not a big life-altering boundary, just one moment where you might usually say yes, and instead pause and choose to do it differently. And when you do, come back and tell me how it felt in the comments. Not how it went, how it felt. Because that's where the real work is. And if this is something you want to get better at, make sure you like and subscribe to the channel, because next week we're diving into emotional boundaries and how to stop absorbing everyone else's energy. And if you're realizing, I don't just struggle saying no, I struggle with knowing what I even need, that's exactly what my workbook, Your Next Chapter, is designed for. Because before you can set boundaries, you have to reconnect with yourself. This walks you through identifying your patterns and understanding your emotional responses and practicing real life shifts. So you're not just reacting automatically anymore. You're choosing intentionally. I'll link it below if you want to go deeper. So here's what I want you to take with you. No is not harsh. No is not selfish. No is clarity. And the discomfort you feel when you say it doesn't mean you're doing it wrong. It means you're doing something different. Until next week, stay curious, be kind, and keep your mind nerdy. That's a wrap. See you next week.
So be curious, stay kind, keep your mind nerdy.